What on earth are you doing here?
Some men lose their tempers when a stranger breaks into their home. Ethan Cole just made coffee. Because the woman sleeping in his bed wasn't just any stranger. She was the highest-ranking general in the Caliph fleet, and she had absolutely no idea whose ship she was standing on. Ethan Cole was 34 years old, and to most of the galaxy he was invisible. He wore plain gray jackets, ate alone in cheap diners, and never once mentioned that he owned the largest private starship corporation in human space. 10 years ago, he had built Voss Industries from a single cargo shuttle into a fleet of over 300 vessels. But Ethan hated attention. He kept his identity hidden behind layers of shell companies, letting his board of directors take the public spotlight while he quietly walked the halls of his own ships as just another engineer. That week, he was aboard his flagship, the Meridian Star, doing what he always did, checking systems personally, talking to crew members without telling them who he was. He liked it that way. People spoke to him honestly when they didn't know he could fire them with a single word. What he didn't expect was a war. The Caliph Empire had been in a tense ceasefire with Earth's colonies for almost a year. Diplomatic tensions were rising again, and without warning, 3 unmarked alien vessels breached orbit near the Meridian Star. Alarms blared through the ship. Crew scrambled to battle stations. And in the chaos, one escape pod from the enemy formation crash-landed directly into the ship's private residential wing, right outside Ethan's quarters. Security rushed to the site expecting a threat. What they found instead was an alien woman, unconscious, wearing the black and silver armor of Caliph Military Command. Her rank insignia was unmistakable. She was a general, one of the most feared strategists in the Caliph fleet, known across 2 star systems for winning battles that should have been unwinnable. She had been ejected from her flagship during an internal mutiny, her own soldiers turning against her in a political coup. Wounded, disoriented, and completely unfamiliar with human ship layouts, she had one instinct: survive. She dragged herself through the corridors, found the nearest private room, and collapsed onto the first bed she saw. It happened to be Ethan's. When Ethan returned to his quarters that night, exhausted from 12 hours of maintenance work, he opened his door to find an armored alien general fast asleep in his bed, her sword-like sidearm still clutched in one hand. Most men would have called security immediately. Ethan simply stood in the doorway for a long moment, arms crossed, studying her. Then he did something no one expected. He made 2 cups of coffee and waited. When General 3 Vask woke up hours later, she bolted upright, weapon raised, ready to fight her way out of what she assumed was an enemy prison cell. Instead, she found a calm human man sitting in a chair across the room, sipping coffee, completely unbothered by the blade pointed at his throat. "You're in my bed," Ethan said simply. "Which, considering the circumstances, is the least of your problems." 3's eyes narrowed. She demanded to know where she was, who commanded this vessel, and why she hadn't been executed on sight. Ethan answered every question with the same maddening calm, except the one about who commanded the ship. That he deflected with a shrug and a joke. Over the next 2 days, as the ship's crew worked to stabilize the tense standoff between human security and an armed alien general, Ethan visited her quarters daily. Not as an interrogator, but almost as a host. He brought her food. He explained human customs. He even found her a spare set of clothes when her armor needed repair. 3, despite herself, found the strange, unassuming man oddly disarming. He didn't fear her. He didn't grovel either, like the ship's junior officers did whenever rank was mentioned. He simply treated her like a person. "You're strange for a low-ranking worker," she told him one evening, studying him carefully. "You speak to me as an equal." Ethan just smiled. "Maybe I don't believe in ranks the way you do," she scoffed, unconvinced, but something about his quiet confidence intrigued her. On the 3rd day, the ship's council demanded a decision. Word had reached them that Caliph warships, loyal to the same faction that had betrayed 3, were now hunting for her, threatening to attack any vessel that harbored her. The senior officers wanted her handed over immediately to avoid conflict. It would have been the easy choice, the safe choice. Ethan walked into that council meeting for the first time in years, not as an anonymous engineer, but as himself. The moment he stepped through the door, the room fell silent. Officers who had barked orders at him for days suddenly stood at attention. The captain, red-faced with shock, stammered his name with the full weight of his true title. Ethan Cole, sole owner and founder of Voss Industries, commander of this fleet by right of ownership. 3, who had been brought into the meeting under guard, stared at him in disbelief. The awkward, joking man who brought her coffee and made bad small talk was, in fact, the single most powerful human in known space. "You," she said slowly, "own this entire ship?" "I own the entire fleet," Ethan corrected gently. "But yes, sorry I didn't mention it earlier. It never really comes up in casual conversation." He turned to the council. "She stays. We're not handing over a wounded refugee to men who tried to assassinate her. If the Caliph loyalists have a problem with that, they can discuss it with me directly." The officers, stunned into silence, had no choice but to obey. That night, 3 found Ethan on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. She approached cautiously, still adjusting to the revelation of who he truly was. "You could have told me," she said, "from the beginning. Would it have changed anything?" Ethan asked. "Would you have trusted me more, or less?" She considered this for a long moment. "Less, probably. Men with power rarely offer coffee before demanding answers." Ethan chuckled. "That's exactly why I didn't tell you." Over the following weeks, as tensions with the Caliph loyalists escalated into open conflict, Ethan used every resource of his fleet to protect 3. Not as a political pawn, but as someone he had genuinely come to respect. And 3, hardened by years of war and betrayal, found herself trusting a human for the first time in her life. Not because of his power, but despite it. When the loyalist fleet finally arrived to reclaim her by force, they found something they didn't expect. An entire private fleet, commanded personally by its reclusive owner, standing between them and the general they sought. "You would risk your empire's wrath for one soldier?" the enemy commander demanded over comms. Ethan's answer was simple. "She's not just a soldier. She's someone I chose to protect. And unlike your empire, I don't break my word." The battle that followed was fierce, but Voss Industries' fleet, technologically superior and fiercely loyal to the man who had built it from nothing, prevailed. The loyalist forces retreated, and word spread quickly through the Caliph Empire. The exiled General 3 Vask had found an unlikely, powerful ally among the humans. In the aftermath, 3 stood again on the observation deck beside Ethan, watching the stars in silence. "I misjudged you," she admitted. "I thought you were nothing. A quiet, forgettable man." "I get that a lot," Ethan said with a smile. "You're the opposite," she continued. "You're the most quietly powerful person I've ever met." Ethan looked at her, something unspoken passing between them. Maybe real strength isn't about announcing who you are. It's about earning trust before anyone knows your name.